I start my show today with a word of caution. Kindly put on your shock absorbers, because the information you're about to get requires very serious, heavy-duty shock absorbers. And I'm not kidding. Many of you have appealed to me, Chris, please do a video on these tunnels that are being built under State House, Nairobi. Chris, please say something about what happened to Gen Zs who were marching on to State House, and then they reached this place, and then something very strange and bizarre happened. I have received many requests about State House, Nairobi. And so, assuming that we all have our shock absorbers well in place, let's go for it. In case you didn't know, there are just too many things about State House, Nairobi that are more than strange and bizarre. And in the long history of the Kumekucha brand, this is indeed not the first time I have spoken at length about evil State House. It isn't. In 2010, I did a post titled "The Most Evil Address in Kenya." Okay? And before that, I did a piece talking about the underground tunnels believed to be under State House. I believe this was sometime in 2006. That's when I did that post. And so it is very important for all of us to appreciate the fact that tunnels are not new under State House. They're not. And also, while we're there, it is indeed important for us to understand, those of us who want a new Kenya, those of us who want to liberate the motherland, it is key for us to understand that the position of Nairobi, where it was constructed, and indeed the position of the nation called Kenya, spiritually, its physical location spiritually, leading to the spiritual position, is very significant. And so naturally, it has a very significant effect spiritually. Anything you do in Kenya is bound to have huge repercussions and consequences worldwide. Now, I don't want to lose you because that was very deep. Okay, so I withdraw. But I am certain those who pray with strongholds in mind have received that information, and they will follow up on it for great effect. But the point you need to take away with you is that when something is built like that, and with that in mind, tunnels lazima. Okay? Please allow me to leave it there. Now, to completely understand the State House story, it is also very important to realize that those who built State House in 1907 built it knowing that they were going to be here permanently. And therefore, irrespective of any change of politics or government, indeed some of them continue to be here, and they want to be here permanently. I know that is deep, and unfortunately, there is no quick, simple way of elaborating on that. Okay? Those who are deep will understand. It was built as official residence of the ruler of the colonial protectorate called Kenya. The ruler of the colony and protectorate of Kenya. Okay? And shortly after the Second World War, in 1949, the then ruler of Kenya, Governor Philip Mitchell, decided that he wanted to start a brand new school for the settler Mzungus children. And he named this brand new school after a very famous World War II warship called HMS Duke of York. And a huge bell indeed was rescued from that ship, and I believe still stands on the grounds of this school which today we know as Lenana School. But super fascinating and well worth an explanation of some sort one day. For the first few months, almost a year, of the life of this brand new school called Duke of York, the dormitories were right inside State House. The playing fields were right inside State House. These Muzungu kids had their education at the seat of power right inside State House, Nairobi. Now on your screens right now, I'm sure you can see a photograph of the very first students being welcomed to the school. On the already built State House, you can already see it standing, in this old, amazing photograph. Later, this school moved to its premises, current premises, along Gong Road, and went on to become a super achiever in the nation called Kenya. And especially after it started admitting black African native students, which happened very late in the day, I believe in the year 1969. The first African admitted to that school, the first man with a black skin, was in 1969. A boy called Mwangi Kioi. Some people argue, actually it was another man called Bill Okwiri, who has been very famous in the security sector in Kenya. This Duke of York school, later Lenana School, went on to do things no other high school has ever been able to achieve. A handful of their students represented the nation called Kenya in the Olympic Games, all Africa Games. People like Wanjui, Tony Githuku, etc., etc. The list is rather long. And then in 1977, they achieved a feat that I believe will never be achieved by any other Kenyan school until the end of time. They won the Eric Shelley Shield for clubs, and this is rugby, which requires big, strong men. These youngsters lifted that trophy in an achievement that still shocks people to this day. I'm afraid all that is relevant because this school had its spiritual beginning at State House grounds, Nairobi. I'm sure at least some of us can understand what I'm driving at. But now the really bizarre stuff. The first president of the Republic of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, never lived inside State House. When he was in Nairobi, he preferred his home in Ichaweri, Gatundu. But mostly, he lived in State House Nakuru and State House Mombasa. What Jomo said about this decision was most interesting. You'd better prepare yourself for this one. He said he did not like the way the frogs croaked at night. The churras, the noise they made at night. What? The second president of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, also never slept in State House. He preferred Kabarnet Gardens, which was initially the official residence of the vice president of Kenya. But even when Moi was president, he lived there. State House, Uhuru Kenyatta, the fourth president of Kenya, even him, he never slept in State House. Okay? Having grown up as the child of the first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, Uhuru is best informed to tell us why. And so the only presidents of Kenya who have lived and slept in State House are the third president of the Republic of Kenya, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, and the fifth, William Samoei Ruto. Now there is something very similar about those presidencies that cannot be ignored. During the tenure of Mwai Kibaki, Kenya witnessed unprecedented bloodletting and suffering during the 2008 tribal clashes. And a lot of the decisions, very poor decisions that were made, that pushed the country to the brink, were made right inside State House, Nairobi. During the tenure of the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya, President Ruto, I think you know, we have seen unprecedented bloodletting on the streets and even off the streets, with abductions, mysterious disappearances, the Kware, very gory discovery, I'm sure we all remember, yeah, mili nyingi sana za binadamu, until the authorities had to shut it down. Okay? What is it about State House? Because lazima iko kitu. And in my opinion, the very, very evil things bang inside State House started around the year 1951, yeah, and 1952, at the height of the Mau Mau uprising, because State House was a major place where the colonialists planned how to deal with the Mau Mau, and usually it was very ruthless. Yeah, that is State House for you. And something else we need to know. During the tenure of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, the second president of Kenya, we have already said Moi avoided the place, even for private moments. There is a Mzungu lady, yeah, who came out and told the world that she had an affair with Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And according to her book, which was banned via legal acrobatics by a very smart lawyer called the late Mutula Kilonzo Sr., yeah, in that book, Marianne Briner, that's the name of the lady, even told us about the signal that President Moi used to give her when the day for them to meet arrived. Yeah, he used to wear a certain rose on the lapel of his suit. And when Marianne Briner saw it, either on TV or in a public function, she would know, leo iko kitu. But even then, their meetings were never in State House. And so my point here is that State House was used by conmen. What would happen is that those close to the president would invite a rich entrepreneur, an Asian, a businessman, into State House. And this person would be ushered in into the many rooms in State House. And then this conman would tell them, hold on a minute, let me talk to the president. And of course Moi was not there. And of course there was no way this eager businessman would know that Moi was not there. And the conman would go into the many other rooms in State House and then come back and say, Moi amesema, leta briefcase ya milioni 10. Those close to Moi made a fortune using the grounds of State House. That is a fact. Now there's something very important that we need to bear in mind. Okay? We need to understand that any underground tunnels within State House can never be for protection. Because the story going round is that in case of something by the Gen Zs, in case of a rigged win in the 2027 general elections, then the tunnels will be used to keep some people safe. Never ever. Security-wise, that can never be an option. Why? For the simple reason that people can wait at any of the exits, yeah, and get hold of those people they're looking for. Not only that, if people invade State House, you don't know what they're going to do. They could burn the thing to the ground. They could collapse the building. In security, you cannot rule out anything. And that would not make anybody in those tunnels safe, would it? I need to remind you that there's a tunnel which has been built underground between Bunge Towers and Parliament buildings. Would you happen to know the main reason why it was built in the first place? It was built so that the members of Parliament could avoid their constituents. Watu wanasumbua, wanauliza pesa, oh, I've got this problem, etc., etc. True story. Yeah. However, when the Gen Z stormed Parliament, those tunnels were used as an escape route. Many members of Parliament escaped via those tunnels. And so in that example, the tunnels were not used as a refuge. They were used as an emergency escape route. It is super fascinating and, in my opinion, very instructive that at the beginning of the Ruto presidency, a very major operation occurred where people came in to pray and spiritually uproot some things, some evil things from inside State House. And that is why I find it puzzling that later on somebody would decide to renovate the same State House, built on those same evil foundations they were praying against, and even later to build a huge church, built on those very same foundations only a short while ago they were praying against. It doesn't make any spiritual sense. It doesn't. Trust me, it does not. Make no mistake about it. There are very many deep mysteries about this State House. A building that was designed by an architect who had never visited Kenya even one day and only came into the country 22 long years later. From 1907, when State House was completed, the man visited Kenya, Sir Herbert Baker, in 1929. By the way, this same architect also designed the law courts and then Nairobi railway station and Prince of Wales School, these days Nairobi School. Trust me, hapo iko kitu. It is my controversial opinion that going forward, the office of the president should be abolished in Kenya, and for many good reasons, but also including the fact that we will no longer need an evil seat of power that seems to have inspired a lot of evil in the motherland. And so in conclusion, if it is indeed true that an 800-meter underground tunnel is being constructed from State House to around the Dennis Pritt Road area in Kilimani, Nairobi, if that information is true, it is partially not true, because I can assure you that tunnel will not start in State House. Why? Because the tunnel already reaches much further than State House, and therefore I suppose it will be a question of starting from where it ends up to Dennis Pritt Road. And need I remind you what season we're in? We are in the season of exposure. When I first started writing about these tunnels, it was a very sensitive hush-hush thing. Many people looked at it like it was a conspiracy theory from a madman called Chris Kumekucha. That's how many people took it. But now here we are. People are openly discussing it. Indeed, it is the season of exposure. And going forward, I expect a lot more to be exposed. I expect a lot more to come out about the very evil spiritual structures that our nation sits on. And indeed, the ones that inspire the evil systems and society that we're grappling with at the moment. Very quickly before I go, let me just remind you, we are also in the season of gifting Chris Kumekucha. You can see details on your screens right now. An initiative, of course, that was started by friends of Kumekucha, not Kumekucha himself, but it has really helped me build this brand to what it is today. And of course, I greatly appreciate all those who are participating in this particular season. Asanteni sana, and God bless. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.